Hey, I don't know who that is there. Just checking out to see who wants to ride with me. Every 2 or 3 weeks I make this 45-minute. A few of you are on there. How you doing? Let me see who's on it. Hey, Francis, haven't talked to you for a while. Yeah, about to take that ride that I normally take. Missed last week, put an extra week in between there, and I am taking my 45-minute ride downstate and just checking in to see who wants to ride with me. Not sure what I want to talk about. It's a lot of sun. Whoa, let me see, can I get the sun out of my eyes a little bit? Wow. Okay, see who's there. Francis, Michael, Ernest Reed, hey. Who else is there? I'm trying to read. Carlos James. I think what I need to do, as usual, is before I actually get on the highway, I need to put my glasses on. Because trust me, y'all, I cannot see without glasses. I am absolutely. Okay, now I can see. Now I can see. Yeah, I'm not sure what I want to talk about today, but as you all know, most of the time when I take this ride, I'm always ranting about something. Normally has a spiritual nature for me. It's interesting. Yeah, I know what I want to talk about. It's interesting that over the past week or so, I've had the opportunity to speak with several people, and that's nothing new, because I'm always talking to people when they discover that there is actually a telephone number to the House of Re-Awakening Minds, and that someone actually answers the phone. So a lot of times every day I normally get to talk to some of you out there who have a question, want to try to get in touch with Grand Sheik, or you know, trying to figure out how to start the nationality process and so forth. But of the last week or so, I had a couple of interesting conversations. One in particular with a husband and wife in Florida, and they had discovered Grand Sheik's videos after, and this is why I want to talk about this, is which makes it unusual slightly. Apparently the husband had a heart attack, or he didn't say he had a heart attack, he had heart surgery, and it was after he came out of heart surgery that his wife said to him, honey, we've got to learn about our nationality and our history. We've got to learn our true history. And he said, they told me that we were talking on a conference call, and he said that they have a historian in Florida who they known for quite some time. And so when they went to the historian, I guess for guidance and direction, the brother told them, this older gentleman, an elder, told them that they would have to get out of the church in order to find out truly who they are. And the reason why that is, the whole thing is odd to me, or in reverse, because normally when somebody has a traumatic experience like an illness, especially something as serious as a heart surgery, a lot of times they will end up turning to church, as their that's what they think that they really have to do, because now their mortality is staring them in the face, and they had to operate on my heart, so my goodness, I need to get right with God. And that's normally what you hear, but that wasn't the case with them in this case. And they appear to be and I'm not sure how old they are, but I'm pretty sure they're at least as old as me, if not older. And they decided to go on this quest to find out more about who they are historically and to declare their nationality. Now, to me, that like I said, most of the time when people have something traumatic like that happen to them, such as, an illness or, and certainly something that's dealing with the heart, people go in the opposite direction. They run to the church or get deeper into the church as a result of whatever trauma that has happened in their lives. But in this case, this was not the case with this couple. And they were telling me that, they were so appreciative of the work that Grand Sheik and myself that we do, and Sister Tamara, what we do at the House of Re-Awaken in Mind, and of course, the other lecturers, Brother Abdullah and Father Hannibal and Brother Aaron, Brother commit to you, whoever comes and has taught, that they were so appreciative that they decided the reason why we initially started to talk, because they sent a pretty large donation, and I wasn't sure whether this was what it was for. I didn't know it was a donation, but so I emailed them because I didn't want to, I thought it was for something else and they may have made a mistake. But when we talked, they said, oh no, there was no mistake. We are sending you, we sent you what, we're not tithing anymore. So it was interesting to have that eye-opening discussion with an older couple who, down in Florida, as a matter of fact, in that area, they said that there's very few people that they can, talk to that are like-minded. And last week, I literally talked to 4 people from 4 different parts of Florida, and they all had the same, isolated experience. And one thing I do know, that once you come into this knowledge of who you are, it can be very lonely, because a lot of times, depending on where you are, and that was me initially when I had my awakening, because when I woke up initially, it had nothing to do whatsoever with being Moorish American. Nothing. I didn't know anything about being a Moor. I just knew that what I was doing as a pastor, apostle, a minister of the gospel, that I had to make a major change. And that thing came as a out-of-body experience and a mandate for me to stop lying and tell the truth. And I tell you all, no, I wasn't like standing up every Sunday telling people lies willfully. But when you fail to investigate fully the things that you say to other people, if they're not entirely true, then you could be accused of lying, in a sense. And that's the I think that's the feeling that I was given, and that was the impression I was given, that you don't even know what you're talking about. And you've allowed yourself to be stuck between 66 books and of historical, some literary work, and you have caused that or allowed that to define not only your reality and your now, but your hereafter. And not only have you done that for yourself, but now, hundreds and hundreds of other people are listening to you over the course of your ministry, maybe even thousands, because I ministered regularly in the men's prison here in Delaware. So, and you are giving them that same lack of knowledge that you have adopted as truth. And so my quest was just to find what is the truth. It had nothing to do whatsoever with what my nationality was, because for all I knew, I was what they said I was, and I never thought about the fact that, our people were called, Negro at one time, and colored and black, that the whole thing kept changing, whatever the era we were in, and that did not make sense. That, Chinese people are always Chinese, and Irish people always have been Irish, and on and on and on. Those people maintain their nationality and not their identity, but that our people, every time the so-called government decides to make a change in what we are called, then we adopt it, just as and wear it like a badge of courage. And so it wasn't until I ran into a sister, and I was trying to think how did I even get to that class? Because somehow in the midst of my awakening, I ended up at a class that was being run by Sister Zodiacus L. She Rise in Power, and she was teaching, and I sat there sort of, clandestinely, undercover, didn't let her know that because I still was a pastor at that point. I still had a few members that were hanging on, but somehow I made it to this class, and I cannot tell you to this day who was responsible for my getting to that class, but whomever that was, I thank them immensely, because in my meeting of Sister Zodiacus L, eventually I admitted to her who I was and what I was dealing with. And a couple of months after our first meeting, she came to Praise to the King Ministries, which was the name of the ministry that I was a part of. And she said, I was sent to help you. She stayed a little while, and in the midst of her being there to help me, she introduced me to Grand Sheikh Taj Tariq Bey. Took me to Philadelphia to a class that he was doing regularly in Philadelphia, and I met him in September of 2011, and then in October he came and he began to teach this Moorish science. And I will tell you, everybody gets excited and sees all those classes. A lot of them are on Facebook, YouTube. Different people have them on their YouTube pages from back in the day when the pictures on the wall were Egyptian, and then it was blue, and then it was some other color. Now it's something else. But back then, I really did not appreciate the fact that I was a Moor. I was, of course, I was living or working, so to speak, as in a government, quote unquote, job, and I had a fairly high level job, not as high as I became, because eventually I rose to become the director of real estate and housing. So it was interesting how people were coming and they were learning all this stuff, and a lot of people were talking about taking properties because they were Moors, and I know we look at people as squatters and so forth in the profession that I was in at the time. So I'm saying, I'm having these classes and these people are talking about taking properties and not paying traffic tickets and stuff, because I didn't know. When you don't know what the law is, and I didn't, all I was doing was making a venue available for people to come. And most of the people that came to me, they had issues, and which now we call, they were seeking remedy, and so I did not identify with the issues that were being presented that caused these people to claim that they were Moors and that they were going to stand on their square. I didn't know what that stuff meant. Classes were week after week after week, and I definitely just was not actually getting it. I was not really getting it. I had the classes and people were coming, and it seemed to be the thing that I ought to do, and I kept on doing it. And I'm glad that I kept on doing it until it made sense to me, because at the time, and that's why I know how it is for a lot of people may see or hear some things and they don't get it right away. I think it took me about 4 years to start to get it, and to realize that it had application to me, that it wasn't really so much about seeking, remedy or needing a remedy, but it was more about a nationality and an identity that had been denied us based on, deception. And that's, I was so passionate about ministry, so passionate about getting folks saved and so forth. That's why I am equally, and probably even more so, passionate these days about, people waking up to the truth of who they are. That we need to know how much deception that we've been under, and how we've been, how religion and denominations even within the religion, the divisions that are there, and how, so-called government and so-called political parties and all of these things have all been designed to keep us divided and not to bring us to a knowledge of who we are and to our position of power and strength. And that's why I do what I do. That's why House of Re-Awakening Minds, I was told, by the Creator, as I was adjusting to my change of no longer being Apostle Gilliam and no longer having a loving congregation week after week, but just doing this, you know, having these classes once at the time, once a month. But I look back on that and I realized that, you know, as I was adjusting, I was also, you know, when I said earlier about loneliness, I was dealing with loneliness because I had people around me once a month, pretty much for the most part. And then, you know, groups have come and gone, and, you know, they've come in to help me, and then they stay a little bit, and then they get mad with me because, you know, maybe I don't follow their agenda to the thing that they think I should be doing. But I hear, you know, the voice of my Creator giving me guidance and direction, and that's, you know, pretty much the you know, the beat of the drum that I march to. I mean, I can't, you know, I try to be accommodating to people to the extent that it does not, you know, have any type of it's not in, you know, disharmony with what I've been called to do. You know, I hear the voice speaking to me in my head, the still small voice, which is my voice, telling me, you know, my higher self telling me, you know, what path I should be on and how I should be proceeding in the work that I do. And I try to follow that. And in so much as somebody else who comes in to help me, they can line up with it, it works. And when they don't line up with it, eventually it doesn't work. So that is just how it is. The last year, I have to say this, the Creator has brought such, you know, a wonderful person to the house of Re-Awaken. You can know when something is divinely inspired, and when something, you know, you just drag somebody in and said, please help me. I didn't have to do this. You know, when someone is sent, you know, and they have the right touch and the right input and the right heart for the work. And that is, you know, Sister Tamara L. I mean, she has been such an amazing boost to what we do at the House of Reawakening Mind. She you know, has brought her skill set. I mean, she's not, you know, she's multiple degreed, and but yet, you know, she's like the hardcore soldier. I love her. She's hard on me. I tell you guys a lot of times she's hard on me, but, you know, we need sometimes somebody that will, you know, kick us into, you know, not only she kicks me, but she wants to push me into my purpose. And so she's the kind of person that gets behind someone's vision and says, oh, you want to work? You want to do X, Y, Z? Then we roll up our sleeves and we work together, but I'm not dealing with no slacker. That's how she is. I'm not going to deal with you if you a slacker. And that's what we need. You know, we need people that say, you know, I'm in it for the long haul, and I'll work as long as you're gonna work too. I'll work as long as you're gonna, you know, not rest on your laurels and think that you don't have to do anything, because I'm here to make what you do better and to enhance it and so forth. And so I am so appreciative of that, because I have so many things that I have had on the table that I've, you know, pushed aside and said, oh yeah, it was good when I thought about it then, but now I want to do something else. And, you know, she has let me know, you know, Dr. G, if we have to go on a fast together, if we have to go, you know, and do some ritual magic. I think she even went so far as to tell me if we had to get on the rooftop. And I said, how am I gonna get on the roof? But I knew what she meant. Whatever it takes to make this vision and this mission of uplifting fallen humanity a reality from the standpoint of our input. We are not the be-all end-all. And that's another thing. There are so many people that get knowledge, and eventually they want to be the only. They want you to look to them as the you know, the source of all your information and so forth. And I'm happy to say, you know, when I first got into this, I only knew of one, maybe two, but basically one source of information for Moorish science and so forth. But I'm happy to say that over this past 7 years that I've been awakened and awakening, that there have been others who have stepped up to the plate and are learning this and reactivating. And I say reactivating because they divinely came in here to do what they do anyway. And sometimes we just need that divine reactivation. We need somebody to remind us somehow that we already know this. And that's one of the things Grand Sheik says, you know, he said, when we when I give this information, he says, Sister Nailah, he said, I'm just reactivating or activating the spiritual DNA of the listeners, and I'm not giving 100% of what it's needed. I'm giving enough, hopefully, he says, to activate what's already in those that are listening, so that they can do, hey, hi, hello, so that they can do whatever it is they've been called to do with this knowledge. And so over the last few years, at least definitely in this year, you know, I could shout out, you know, people like Brother Jamal up in Rhode Island. Love what he's doing with Rise of the Moors, and you know, Brother Isaiah and the crew down in the Baltimore territory with their new, you know, like read more about it and the work that they've been doing. And of course, you know, premierly what's going on with the consular court. If you all have not visited www.moorishamericanconsulate.org, do so today. You need to go to moorishamericanconsulate.org. It's, I mean, Brother Shalay Bay, Sister Light to Jerry Bay, Sister Sharon Tracy Gale Bay, and others. I don't, you know, Brother Isaiah and some of the others. Brother, I know Brother Jamal is also involved as a consul, and of course, Grand Sheik, who is a co-consular general. You need to go to that site and connect with them and all of the information and the writs that they're putting out. And if you have not nationalized, you know, you can get your nationalization done through them. And I don't know what the cost is. I'm told that, you know, some of what they do is just a mere donation, but excellent documentation and paperwork and so forth has been developed in a short period of time by people who have not even been woke, so to speak, that long. That lets you know, when you know you've been divinely called to do something, with something that's come from a higher place for you to do what you do, you get all of the tools and the wherewithal and the support that you need to make that thing happen. You don't have to struggle over it. I look back, I mean, I have not struggled only in my mind over how House of Re-Awakening Minds is going to sustain itself. And for the past, you know, 7 years that Grand Sheik has been here, and the almost 8 years that I have been in this awakening process, I have been divinely maintained to the extent that we've been able to keep those doors open. And when you are called to do it, the help comes. It comes from a place. It comes from a place beyond you. All you have to know is that this is what I'm supposed to do. And, you know, a lot of times we sit there in a place of indecision, like, how am I going to do this? And while we're dealing with the how am I going to do this, you know, we miss the opportunity to put that one foot in front of the other and realize that sometimes when you walk in the path of your truth, that's when you run into your how. Your how is on the path waiting for you, you know, to get to where it is. And so that's what I basically have been learning how to do even more so, is to get to a place of trusting the process that has been divinely ordained and orchestrated for me, and that as I walk in it, that everything that I need to make this thing a reality is going to come to pass. And that's what happened. If any of you are familiar with this Bible story of Paul, they went to an island and they were on a ship. Actually, they were shipwrecked, and the ship broke up in a bunch of crazy pieces, and they ended up getting there. They said some on broken pieces. So many people have preached sermons. I've preached sermons about that. You can get there in broken pieces. But the point I wanted to make is that after surviving the shipwreck, he gets onto the island and they get ready to build a fire because they're wet and, you know, they're cold and wet from having to drag themselves out of the sea on pieces of broken ship. And when he reaches down to get the wood to make the fire, it says a viper that was in the woods. Hey, Brother Troy, a viper in the woods, it said, that was in the wood, fastened itself to him. He got bit by a snake. Many of us are getting bit by snakes. But here was the beautiful part. So they said to him, he must be a demon. He must be whatever. He must be, evil. That's why the snake bit him, and they waited for him to die. But the Bible, and so there's good moral stories in the Bible. So I like this one. But the Bible tells us that what he did was he shook it off into the fire. And guess what? He kept on living. And that's what basically I have been doing. When I first started this journey, first it was the storm, the shipwreck of telling people the truth. People who said, I love you one week, Apostle, and the next week said I was a demon. Excuse me. I've survived the shipwreck. And then they stood on the sidelines after, I'm trying to, on broken pieces. She got bit. The first bite was somebody, and I think I really to this day know who it was, but somebody called the authorities on me, and they came in and inspected the building, and they told me that I needed a door in the back. And it was impossible. It's impossible the way House of Re-Awakening Minds is to put a door in the back, because we don't have egress to the back of the building. But nevertheless, because of that, they came in and they shut my building down. And it was, not only was it bad that they shut it down, but I was having an event that was already being advertised. A friend of mine jumped in and allowed me to use his place to have that actual event. But the actual commissioner, because I worked for the city, the commissioner told me of license and inspection, don't want your building to be sitting there, closed down and so forth.
Incoming call.
People can vandalize your building and so forth like that. He says, here's what I can do. He said, I can change your the number of people occupancy and reduce it to amount that won't cause you to need another door in the back. And I said, well, that's great, because everybody's going anyway and I'm rebuilding. So when he did that, within 3 days, now that was a real resurrection. Within 3 days, my building was back open. But people had sat on the sideline like, she got bit by the snake, let's wait for her to die. I didn't die. I shook it off into the fire, had my event anyway, and have been able to maintain for all of these years. And this is not braggadocious, because I'm not going to tell you that I have not had some concerns over these last 7 or 8 years about how we're going to make it. I had something that I said to you all just a few months ago, and I want to say thank you for those of you who answered and continue to answer the call to keep and make sure that House of Re-Awakening Minds doors remain open, that we can put some air on even though it was noisy in the summertime, and the heat on in the winter time. I appreciate you. I appreciate you to the utmost that we can do things on a regular like that. For many of you who are all over the place, and what I'm saying, where you're located and you can't get there. And I also appreciate the ones that travel from far and near on we had a brother and sister that came all the way from Wisconsin last week. So people, if you've come from Florida and California and Washington State and Rhode Island and Texas, and I mean North and South Carolina and Atlanta and Chicago, New York, everywhere, Jersey. More people come here from other places that live here right where we are. So
incoming call. Press the pickup button.
Somebody keeps trying to call me. They obviously don't know I'm having my little ride with Dr. G time. But in any event, I am so appreciative of the people, of you all, of the brethren, and that come, and not only come, call and share how much the videos have meant to your awakening. And I didn't realize, I didn't realize it until in the last year or so, how important this has been to so many people all over the world. Literally, I went from a little storefront church with 80 what I thought were faithful ministries, ministry partners, if you will, members, to a worldwide work. And it's still ministry. Grand Sheik tells me, he said, you still ministering, Dr. J, you still doing the ministry. I don't know what you think it is, but this is still ministry. You are dealing with and supplying the needs of the people. And so here I go from this little known obscurity of Wilmington, Delaware, but a good preacher. I was a pretty good preacher, to a worldwide ministry. And even if it's more of me making it available, I mean, for other people to hear what, Grand Sheik and the others are saying, is still ministry, and it's still it's so important. It has such significance that I just really, not until we started doing the lives and then I was able to start to interact with you all did I realize how important this work is. And when I had that awakening on December 18th, 2010, I had no idea that, almost 8 years later, that I would be where I am today. I'm rich in knowledge. Yes, the weekly stipend that I got went out the door, and the tithes and offerings went out the door, everything. I mean, it was so much going on that I did not know of, because all I had to do was show up and preach, teach, and I was good, and other people handled everything. And when everything broke up because I woke up, that kind of rhymes, I had to look at the reality of there was an expense to running this work and this ministry. And when people leave, they take all of their assets and their resources with them, and that's exactly what happened. But except for the 3 days that the building was shut down because of that inspection thing back in 2011, we've never shut the doors of the house. And then in 2011 I heard Creator say, you were called to reawaken minds. I need you to reawaken minds. And that's why we call it the House of Reawakening Minds. For a while, the people that were there with me at the time when I shared that, what I was being called to do, started calling it House of Ram. And some of you all still call it House of Ram to this day. But as it turns out, I heard Creator tell me about 2 years later, the energies, and I learned about energy in the midst of, I became a Reiki practitioner, and I learned the importance of energy and the transference of even the energy of our words, how powerful the energy of our words are and so forth. And I didn't know anything at the time about etymology, but at the time I realized that the energy of what you call something was just important as when you call something a work that you're doing, as what you call an individual or what you call yourself. And so I heard the Creator say to me, the energy of Ram was not the energy that I want for you for this work that you're doing. This energy is more of a creative, with the minds and so forth, that you're called to open minds and on a broad spiritual level. And if the energy of Ram was just too forceful at the time for what I was being called to do. And so I kept making it a point to say to people, when they say House of Ram, I go House of Reawakening Minds, because I wanted people to know, every time we say it, I wanted that to be the banner that went before us that was actually happening. I wanted minds reawakened, because that's what the universe wanted. Minds reawakened to the point that we could go out and study and overstand and understand what we were studying, that we would break out of the molds and the restrictions and constrictions that we had been given, particularly if we were involved in any type of religious upbringing, because there's certain limitations, and they want us to just stay in the Bible or stay in the Quran or stay in the Torah, whatever you are. No, give people the expansiveness of having a mind that's so reawakened that they can not only remember what they're called to do in this lifetime, but they'll begin to realize that they have had many lifetimes over which to deal with and become who they are. And that once they get to the place where they have an awareness of their immortality, that they will be divinely led to come together. We will come together, because we were in a place before. I mean, many of us are members of the same soul group. When people, I talked about loneliness at the beginning, but we're members of the same soul group, and we've come through many lifetimes, and we've met finally under an era, if you will, when it comes through astrologically, moving from that elusive deceptive Piscean age. And I'm born in the sign of Pisces, to this awakening of the energy that comes with Aquarian, of knowledge, of information, of freedom. We've, for such, as they say, for such a time as this, we've come to this place for such a time as this, because this, as the Bible talks about, I believe this is the generation. This is not just a generation, meaning what age group, but this is the time period of making change. We have an opportunity to right so many wrongs with the knowledge, if we allow ourselves to study and to grasp it, and then not be stingy with it, share it with our family members and our friends, and when they don't want to hear it or so forth, then, you know, hey, just be it, live it. That's the main thing. Live this life. Live this life. That's what I tell people. They were like, oh, my mother or my relatives, they think I'm crazy and, you know, blah blah. It's like, I tell them, listen, you cannot force truth down anybody's throat. What you can do is be truth in their presence. And when you are truth in their presence, eventually something happens, something comes along to remind them of what you exhibited and how important it would be, and how they might want to go back and revisit some of the things that you've said, because, you know, things have gotten a little hot for them. You know, when things start to hit the fan, so to speak, you know what I mean? Folks get to looking back on who might be able to assist them in their time of need. And many times, you know, it's when we've kept our cool. And it's beautiful out here. I want to flip. I guess I can't do it. Yeah, we've kept our cool, and we've been calm in situations where others would have lost it and so forth. They just realized that maybe we got something, know something that they should have been paying a little bit more attention to. It is so beautiful out here where I am. Okay, I'm kind of almost where I'm going. Let me see. These folks out here have, I think, a part of their association is what gets their grass cut. It's so beautiful out here. But anyway, I just wanted to share a little bit. Like I said, this trip is sort of long, and it would be boring if I wasn't doing my little riding with Dr. G segments. I want to do more things. I said that before. I need to be more forthright and forthcoming with some of the things that I know. On a spiritual side, I don't talk a lot about it, because a lot of times people, you know, they just want to know, how do I claim my nationality? They don't really want to know some of the other stuff that, you know, I have. You know, I'm very much into metaphysics. That's really my my thing. I love the fact I'm a Moor, definitely, but a metaphysician also, and that's the part of me that I don't get a chance to share those things, those deep and esoteric things that I like, that I love studying. But you all are absolutely fantastic, amazing. Appreciate you for riding with me. As you see, I'm where I was going. I'm parking and getting myself in place to go. I didn't get to actually, you know, flip through and see who was watching and so forth, but I do appreciate you all for riding with me. See, I got my shirt on. It says I don't know if you can see it. I think it says Melanin Goddess. But I'm where I was going. Gotta get my hair did. It's been 3 weeks. Need it washed and braided and so forth. But I appreciate you all. I appreciate you all for your support. I will be coming back at some point. As I mentioned, if you saw the Friday broadcast, at the end I talked about a fund that I want to initiate and start for our Grand Sheik. You all know he's getting up in age, and he recently was ill for about a couple of weeks, and it took its toll on him. And if you've seen recent videos, you can kind of see a difference in him. what he looks like. But and I want to give a shout out to Michael Jordan, not the basketball player, but of Jordan's Cell Food, who gave me a call because he had seen a video of Grand Chic, and I think he felt like, you know, he probably needs some vitamins and herbs, and he shipped a boatload of herbs, which we received yesterday for Grand Chic, and some for me too. Jordan Cell Foods, very professionally packaged and so forth, and he follows a lot of them, Dr. Sabi's formulas, a lot of his types of formulations, so I appreciate that. But what I was saying is, we want to do a fund, because we have to maintain our treasure, our international treasure, Grand Chic. You know, he works those other jobs, the building and fixing people's houses, because he has to. He likes doing it, don't get me wrong, but his body is telling him he needs to slow down. And, you know, there is nothing in place for him to slow down. And we want to preserve him. We want to preserve him. So I will be soon putting that, Sister Tamara and I and some others are going to work on putting together that fund, and you know, so we can administer for him, so that he will be taken care of, you know, for as long as he wants to be here. Because I think when people are of his caliber, we make a decision to stay or leave. And what I mean, in this plane, if you will, of this dimension, and we want him to stay. We want him to stay in comfort. We want him to stay here in peace, and we don't want him to have to go out and do something with aches and pains and so forth in his body. So, with that, I bid you adieu. Every last one of you. I even see my son, my oldest son Dion, is on there watching. I hope you get something from this. The hardest people sometimes for you to, you know, convince about the truth about who they are and what they ought to be doing are your own family. But you all, most of you on here, you know what time it is, you know what's up, and you are on that path of right knowledge and correct and status. And, you know, the more of us, it's going to take more of us Moors awake to make things change. There's something called, and I'm late going in here, but there's something called quantum entanglement. When all of us, and when many of us, you know, maybe stop praying because we came out to church, and there's no need to stop praying. It's like who you praying to, that's the issue. But when you send up prayers, or when we all are focusing intently on the same thing for something to change or happen, there's a reach of quantum entanglement. It's the same thing with the 100 monkey theory, but that's when all of that stuff hits an apex, and boom, it makes something happen. So we can make things happen when we get on one accord. We gotta, you know, really operate from that love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. We have to stop being, you know, catty and negative to one another, whether the Moor is conscious or not, you know. And I know that, you know, some Moors don't know they Moors, but that doesn't make them not Moors. So we've got to be the ones that, and I'm not calling people to turn the other cheek, because I'll be the first one sometimes to go, which one, these or that, depending on what you do to me. But I mean that we have to be the change that we want to see. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. Much love to you. Probably won't get on going back, because the traffic is a lot more hectic when I go back than when I came. And this is for me like a little, once I leave from getting my hair done, I have a trip that I take a little further down, and then I head back up. So I may be, you know, 5 or 6 o'clock in the dark driving back. But just know that I love you, and I'm going to be moving my little videos over to my, right now it's called Dr. Nailah, I think, Bakari Gilliam on Facebook. I have my own page that's more of a, I guess you call it not a fan page, but it's more like the House of Re-Awakening Minds page, where I can start to put videos and things that will stay there instead of you have to find them down through a feed. I'm going to, those of you who find me under that Dr. Nailah Bakari Gilliam, if you like my page, I'm going to start broadcasting from that instead of this page, probably, because I want things to be things that I need to keep. I want them to stay in a place where they'll be easily found. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you, Brother Tariq. Thank you, everyone. All those love things who handles the process in the Midwest. I'm in the Michigan territory. I'm not sure, but I think More King KG, when I talked about the Moorish American Consulate, MOORISH American CONSULATE.org. Check with them, because there are regions throughout the whole, Amexum. I think they're currently on their way to a conference in Florida. So, hey, check out the consulate. A lot of information there, a lot of free work. There's an excellent trust document that you can download into Word. Those of you who need to get your trust done, an excellent trust document. You can download your proclamation and judicial notice papers. You can get your identification, your Moorish card, and so you can get all of that there, as well as others. Like I said, there's some people that want us to think that the only place you can get it is here or there. I'm telling you that there are other places, and some of them don't even. The Moorish American Consulate operates, most of what they do without cost. Of course, they do need donations, and there might be a donation requested, or it may be a small fee to print a card, but things that you pay a lot more otherwise, you can get through the Moorish American Consulate, and they're constantly updating and adding new information. I was just told there's a new document, a 200 and some plus page document for Moors, new Moors, coming into the knowledge, that one can get by taking a Tuesday night class that they have. So every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, the Moorish American Consulate has a class that if you attend this class, there's a booklet that you can get to download, and it will help you through many of the processes that you now are searching around or calling me or others to get, and you getting at without having to put out any finances for it. So we are appreciative of the changes that are coming about, and any part that we can play in getting that information out to the masses, then so be it. Again, it's MoorishAmericanConsulate.org. It's riseofthemoors.org, readmoreaboutit.com, and I know there are others, but these are some of the main ones that we are in touch with, as well as Moorish Science with Grid with GSK, Re-Awaken.com. So there's information out there beyond what we think is the quintessential and one and only source. There's others. There's a Moorish directory out there. I'm not sure what that actual URL is, but like I said, they've been around for a while doing what they've done. So do what they do. So we need to start checking out these resources and then sharing this information with others who are coming into this knowledge. Again, like I said, I appreciate you all. Brother Tony Suggs, I see he's watching, and he's doing a great work of putting out information for the head, for the heart, to get us to a place where we begin to think. And I appreciate him. I follow him. I only wish that I could share his post, because it doesn't have a share feature. But I appreciate everything that he does, and the thousands and thousands of people that follow him. I know appreciate that. So thank you again for indulging me on my trip, and we'll talk again soon. Peace, Islam, Hotel.